Hi there. So I'll be doing a few things on the beta this week. I'm not going to try to rush through one day and get it all done. But the top end is due. It's got about 130 hours on it now. I'm also going to be installing new FMF fatty. Going to be installing new reeds, new gaskets, obviously. I also have some. So there's the reeds, new wrist pin bearing for the crank, obviously new piston and rings. Got a gasket set for 20 up to 2016 KTM. I'll be able to use the base gasket, the rubber gasket, so on and so forth. The rest of it might not actually fit, so I might have to cut some of my own gaskets. Got new hoses. You can see here the previous owner that had it from new to all of 25 hours actually removed the thermostat, and I'll stick to it that way. Just for information, here's my. This is the OEM piston that came out of the bike. You can see it, 135 hours, March 2020 last year. A little bit of discoloration, a little bit of carbon. Yeah, so we'll see what this one in turn looks like. I also have a P-Tech aluminum skid plate in the mail. It should be here in a couple of days. The height was pretty good, but on big hits, if if you stall it on a log, which I do often, and the log hits the pipe right there, it still bends the pipe. So I got quite a bit of splooge coming out of the pipe. Yesterday was pretty cold before the ride, maybe minus 16, 17 Celsius when we started up, and you can see the exhaust coming out of the bike. So a few things to do. I already checked squish this morning and compression. So there's compression as it stands now. This is cold, 142 psi. Squish is pretty crappy at 0.61 to 0.69 thou. So I got a bit of a list here. So I'm going to start going through it. And yeah, but first I'll obviously pull the plate. I'm going to drain the coolant. Then I'm going to give the bike a good clean right around the cylinder head before I even remove the pipe. Then I'll pull the pipe, and then obviously I'll pull the tank and get into it. So I'll set it up and walk you guys through it. Right. Okay, so coolant's out. Obviously the tank's out. I just wanted to show you real quick. You can sort of see all the dirt and grime that's built up. What I did is, since I'm replacing the hoses, I got this hose out of the way, but I kept it here so I don't get crap falling into the motor. So I usually just use a spray bottle with this stuff called Spray 9. It's this, I don't know, commercial degreaser. And borrow your mother-in-law's toothbrush. Remember to clean it and give it back to her. And just, you know, scrub around where you need to scrub around. I basically clean up the entire top end. Around here, I'm going to be taking off the reed cage. Obviously, the carb is going to come out. This is going to swing out of the way. I'll show that later. And then once it's loosened up, I just use warm water and soap with another sprayer. Spray it down, and then I use pressurized air. Sorry, the compressor is going. Anyways, you can see it's pretty clean now. I got my head torch on, so I'm not sure if that's making it better or worse. But the only place I really couldn't get it is underneath the exhaust flange here, but that'll get it itself off. Power valve is pretty clean. I'll clean it up a little bit better once I take it off, but I mean the big stuff is off, right? So we're gonna lose the vent tube. I've disconnected the lead to the spark plug. I'm gonna take the spark plug out. The support bracket does need to come off fairly easy. This is already loose. Keep in mind, coolant's drained. I will likely remove the crossover and get that out of the way so it's easier. And just go around to the other side. Sorry, my compressor is running, so hopefully I'll have to talk over it. I forgot what the hell's in here. I'm going to take it off, just have a quick look at it. So once this is all off, I'm going to obviously take the head off, or sorry, the cover off here, and we'll have a look at the top of the piston, go from there. Okay, couple of things. Obviously the subframe's out of the way. Technically the exhaust doesn't have to come out of the way. My shredder valve is stupid long, so the exhaust was pushing up against it. It's 2 bolts. It comes off super easy. Next up, one thing to watch for: out of the 4 bolts on the intake boot, one's one of these stupid tamper-proof things. I don't know why the hell they do that. It was the same deal here with this power valve. All I did is I just basically took a fairly sharp screwdriver, put it in here like so, knocked that piece of shit out of the way, and then I actually drove the socket in like that, like the right size socket, and just hit it with a hammer just to kind of give the bolt a shock, and this thing came out. It's already loose. So I'm going to take off the other 3. If your beta's oil injected, make sure you plug up your oil line so your oil line doesn't leak out. Obviously the carb is out. It doesn't have to come out. One good thing to keep in mind is just take the slide out. You don't have to take anything else. So all you want to do is take off your 2 screws here. I'm going to give the carb a little bit of a clean. It's not ideal, but it is what it is. So yeah, I'm pretty much ready to, obviously the support bracket was off. One thing I noticed, both of these bolts holding the support bracket on were hand tight. So I didn't put any Loctite on that last time. The CDI is kind of out of the way. So you can see there's lots of room to work around here. So obviously what I need to do first is take off the power valve cover. And here's going to be a little circlip. I'll show that. And then basically these bolts come off. Be mindful of the washers. Make sure you don't drop anything down there. Take the cover off. I'm not even going to bother taking off the spark plug. There's really no need. And then we're going to be ready to undo the 1, 2, 3, and there's a bolt underneath this cover here. So this cover does have to come off. But anyways, you can see the regular 8mm bolts here. So that's going to come out next. And yeah, stand by. Okay, this is going to be difficult to do, but first thing first, once you take off your cover, take some shop rags and cover the hole in here. What you need to do is, this little lever connects to the power valve. This is the power valve here. So you got to free this little nubbin off of the power valve before the head comes off. So you can see there's right here, you can see me moving it right there. There's a little circlip that's in place. So what you got to do is, of course, this is a total pain in the ass trying to do with one hand, because you know you can only do one hand, well, a couple of things with one hand, but that's besides the point. Anyways, I'm not going to do this with one hand. I need 2 hands. So this is going to come off, this is going to pop off. So I'm going to see if I can maybe set this up here. So that's what you got to do, is you just got to take the circlip off carefully, obviously, and then it's just going to drop down like so. Set it with your stuff so you don't lose it, and this basically will now put something in here, and there you go. That pops off. Now another thing I was going to say is check the operation of your power valve. If it's nice and free, that means you don't have to take the power valve apart, and that looks like it's working beautifully. And then obviously we're going to have access to that bolt, this bolt, and then we're going to take off the next cover. Okay, so oops, 3 bolts gone. The other 3 are loose and ready to go. Now, I reused these copper washers on my first go, I do have new ones. So if this is the first time you're actually doing your head, you should have no issues reusing the washers. Maybe flip them upside down when you go to put them back in, and you should be good to go. You can see they're all in relatively good shape. Yeah, so heads on. I'm just going to give it a little bit of a whack with the mallet, and she should come right off. Yeah, all right. There's the head. Not too bad. A little bit of carbon. Nothing crazy. So I'm eventually going to get this shaved. But I'm going to do the piston and then worry about the head getting shaved later. Right, so we're ready for the head to come off. This gasket's loose. Another thing I was going to say is I did end up taking off the connector here because it's much easier to get your 13mm wrench in here. So just leave the jam out of here, maybe mark it right where it goes. That way you can put it all together. This is not going to take a lot to actually get off. You can already see it's moving a little bit. So again, finesse it with the rubber mallet from both sides, and it should come right off. And if it doesn't, well, then we got issues. But anyways, we're not worried about the gasket. You can see the piston coming out. So this doesn't look too bad. We got a circlip on each side to take out, then slide through. Obviously the bearing's going to get replaced as well, and I'll pull the piston. As always, put a bunch of rags down here before it shit falls down. I'm just going to have to clean off this gasket here because it didn't want to come off entirely. Oh, there you go. That was easy. But I'll prep that before I put it back together. And then obviously we still have to do the reeds, but I'm going to concentrate on the piston here first, and then the head. So I'm not sure how well you guys are going to see this, but run your finger through the bore and see what it feels like. I mean, it's there's a little bit of film here, but there really shouldn't be a ridge, and there isn't on this one. This actually looks in really good shape. No scoring, anything to speak of really. I mean, ideally, I don't have a hone. I really should hone this, but I'll have a close look at it, clean it up. Obviously, it's going to get new rubber gaskets. Like I said, you can see the power valve moving in there. It's super smooth. All it is the power valve is the shaft that goes through here. I mean, you can see it's nice and smooth. I've been running synthetic snowmobile oil, so I'm thinking that helps with it. While I'm here, obviously, I'm going to clean all this up before I put it back together. Clean the bottom of it as well. The other thing you want to note is the thickness of the gasket that you used. So obviously the squish is a bit sloppy on this bike, so I'm going to try to get away with the thinnest base gasket I can to kind of reduce that squish. And yeah, so I'm going to put some rags into the hole here. We're going to reuse this gasket for a power valve. It's in really nice shape. Nothing wrong with it. It hasn't leaked. But yeah, next up is just getting the piston off. And you know, this piston actually looks really nice. I'd have to say it probably looks better than my OEM one. No real blow by. I mean, a little bit here, nothing crazy by any means. But yeah, let me stuff some rags in there, and we'll see what's what. Top of the piston looks, come on, pretty nice. But we'll look at it on the bench anyways. Okay, so you can see I draped the entire crankcase over with just one complete blanket I had. One really good thing to know is you got circlips on either side of the piston. Then the I think it's a wrist pin, it's what it's called. The trick is you only have to remove one of the circlips. Don't fight with two of them in the motor. Remove the one circlip, push the damn thing through, and then you're through. So I want to see if I can just show that. Yeah. Got a really small screwdriver, and all you do is you jam it up and start the circlip out.
And it should finish last words. Come right up.
All else fails, get the old... There it goes. Yeah. There you go. That's just coming through with the extension. And again, rubber mallet. There we go. She's out. Just like that. So now, piston should come straight out, and it does. There it is. Take the bearing out. There's that. And obviously the piston kit's going to come with a new wrist pin. I got a new bearing. Should always change the bearing. Always orientate your piston rings properly. You can see they're going to have basically recesses here, but we'll do that on the bench anyways. Now, while you're in here, pull this back and check your main bearing. Now, this moving back and forth, I think is normal. It's obviously going to have, what the hell is it called? I think radial play this way. But you don't want it moving up and down. And right now that feels pretty freaking good. Whee! There she goes. Let's get set up here. Okay, hopefully, right here. Move this crap out of the way. So let's have a look at the piston. You know, honestly, it doesn't look too bad. Again, this is my original piston. So if I orientate them the same way, this way, you can see this one here, was quite a bit darker, the one in my left hand. And it seemed like it had a bit more blow by here as well, and then here, whereas this one is pretty clean. I really don't know why, but not very well versed in that respect. Seems like there's a little bit less carbon too. I could be wrong, but yeah, I'm gonna pull the rings next, and I'm gonna check the ring gap. So yeah. And again, that's the front. There you go. So just keep that in mind. And yeah, next up we're gonna take the piston rings out. So, ring gap. The hell is ring gap? Ring gap is the space. These basically shrink and expand and they wear. So what you want to do is take one of your rings like so. We're going to take feeler gauges and we're going to stick them in the gap there. And I'll do both of them. And again, you don't have to do this. If you want to do it, if you're curious, anal retentive, call it what you will. I just like doing it. Sixteenth thou goes in. Yeah, call that 16th thou. Okay, so I've cleaned the head. Head looks pretty good. These gaskets here, don't do them with a screwdriver. You can actually do them with pressurized air. Just clean it out and it lifts the gasket right up. Bottom looks pretty clean. Obviously, I'll still clean this prior to putting the new gasket on. Thickness of gasket. I don't know. Survey says 0.44 mil. And got a few other gaskets here. This one's torn, so probably not going to use this. 0.51. I guess it's probably written on here. Maybe not. This one feels thicker still. Ooh, 0.77. I'm not going to use that one. This one's paper thin. 0.22. Ooh. Might have a winner here, folks. And then obviously we got a gasket here. But this one feels pretty thick, so I think I'm going to reuse this one. Now, fun fact. These are off of pre-20 or up to 2016 KTM 300s. Same base gasket. The exhaust gaskets are going to be staying. The top gaskets are going to be the same. Just the power valve gasket's not going to be the same. So you might have to buy yourself some gasket maker, buy your own, or go to your friendly beta dealer and get it there. Yeah. Well, let's keep going then. Okay. Old gasket. Noted. Let's have a look. So the piston kit I get from piston kit, obviously bearing, gasket kit I got from RMATV. So there's the new one. You can see it's got no wear, nothing like that. Now, as you're assembling everything, use a little bit of injector oil, or just regular oil actually. Let me just think about that. Regular oil on this side of the piston, because obviously you're not going to contaminate anything there. So there's our beauty new piston. Front, obviously. We still recording? Yes. So yeah, so I'm going to set that there. Got our new rings, so we're going to check ring gap up next. Just going to set the old stuff aside here. Don't need it just yet. Now, oh yeah, new snap rings. we go. Blammo. Okay. No, that's not going well. Anyways, you can see both of them have N. I think that's supposed to face up. I don't know. Let's see. Okay, ring gap new. So, like I mentioned earlier, this should be quite a bit tighter. Now, a good way to make sure that it's all at the same height is set yourself a nice depth gauge with your caliper and just move that around, you know, whatever. Anyways, it'll get you to where you want to be. All right. And guessing game begins. So the old one I pegged at 16th thou. Let's try 12th thou. 12th thou is nice and tight. That was a good guess. Okay. New is 12th thou. There we go. Okay. So we're ready. You can see the pins got locating pins right here. So each ring is going to basically locate in here. They're going to be slightly offset so you don't have blow-by. Hoil. Sure. Yeah, okay. Maybe work here. Get yourself some oil. I mean, this is just for assembly. I'm just going to double check. Yeah, it doesn't say shit about it. I want to say it faces up. Okay, that's the bottom one. Top one. Now, the pistons have to sit in the little locating grooves, because otherwise you won't be able to actually slide it through, and you'll know if it's going to fight you. So anyways, N face up. So I'm going to try to start that at the locating one. Oh yeah. Okay, that's good. Next up, I'm a Muppet. What I should be doing is installing this on the actual crank, so something's, you know, holding the thing in place. Key thing is to lube everything up nicely. There's our new bearing. There we go. Yeah. like a glove. All right. So, is your piston the right way? Take your time. There you go. Right, so my other camera died, so I got to use my phone here. So, anyways, heads back on. What I was gonna say is really take your time when you're putting the rings on. Make sure your rings are located in the pins. Lube them up quite a bit. Slowly slide the barrel over while squeezing the rings. Don't force it, because what's going to happen, your rings might actually come out of the groove and get basically hung up on the barrel and scratch the barrel. The best way to test this is if your wheel's off the ground, put it in second gear and spin the wheel. You can see the piston going up nicely, no play, no nothing. And you can see I haven't actually put the bolts on. If your whole barrel goes up without your bolts being on, something's probably screwed here, right? So so make sure you do that. So then you can put your bolts on. Use a little bit of blue Loctite, cross tighten. This right here is an RMATV. I'll link the description. This works on the Beta. No issues whatsoever. Here's the old reeds. You're not going to be able to tell. They weren't chipped. They were actually in really, really nice shape. But from what I understand from reeds, once they start chipping, they go really quick. So the copper washers, excuse me. I'm going to have some extra exhaust rings. Not going to bother with that. And I'll slap it all back together. What else is there to watch for? Really, honestly, not a hell of a lot. So I'm just going to finish up the piston today. I might actually get around to the hoses as well and button it all up. Obviously, a little bit of blue Loctite on these. I didn't have any problems with the oil line leaking or anything like that, so just let it hang there while the boot was just kind of in the way or out of the way while I was doing that. So I'll plug this back up. I'm going to thread the little thing back on, put it all back together, bolt it up, and call her done. Right. So just finishing up here. Install the new hoses. I ended up leaving the thermostat delete right out, so just repurposed the plug that I had here. Otherwise, all the hoses are from AS3 out in the UK. They're super hardy. I had to cut this one here. That was the bypass hose, and you can see it's pretty sizable. So tied up all my wires, cleaned or plugged in my carb positioner. There was another wire, I think, for the rear brake that needed to be connected. Otherwise, tied everything up, got the oil line nicely organized. All the fittings are accessible. That reminds me, I gotta put my vent hose in. Otherwise, I'm just gonna put the tank on, put the coolant in. So obviously coolant goes in here. Keep in mind you got a breather hose or hole here. I'll fill it till it starts coming out here. Then I'll do my heat cycles and then check the coolant level again, because by then I'll probably go down a little bit. Stand by. Ooh, 147. Should be a little bit higher along the way. Again, these heat cycles aren't super long that I'm doing here, so maybe needs to get broken in a little bit. So I'll check it again in about 10 hours time and go from there. Thanks.